That's a lot of background.
Good morning.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Dad, Mom had such a great vision for the company. I don't know that I can keep it going.
Amy, your mother worked with Burden to develop a plan. Don't worry.
Life and business can be hard, but finding the right advisor to help you, your family, and your business get where you want them to go doesn't have to be.
Stephen, get Burden on the line.
Burden LLP. We listen. We solve. We do.
Good morning. Thank you all for tuning into this morning's Power Briefing. My name is Sarika Gangar, and I'm one of the deputy editors at Commercial Observer. Before we get started, I'd like to thank this morning's sponsor, Burden LLP. New York and the US as a whole saw many of its construction projects come to a halt with the onset of the COVID-19 outbreak. Some construction projects were deemed essential, others were put on the back burner until further notice. Now, as the country looks to slowly reactivate economic activities, construction projects are at the front of the list for phased openings. Today's program will discuss how Holt Construction, a firm with over 100 years of experience, is moving their largest construction projects forward, how construction timelines have been impacted across the country, and which market sectors have resumed work. Today's guest speaker, Chris Asaro, president of Holt Construction, is considered one of the nation's foremost leaders in aviation construction. So we'll also be taking a more in-depth look at the major aviation projects in New York and across the country. If you have a question for Chris during our talk, please submit it using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Chris, welcome, and how are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How is everyone?
Great, thank you for joining us. I thought we would start off just kind of talking about the current climate. I know the term unprecedented times is a bit overused nowadays, but it seems like the last few weeks are a time that many of us have never seen before in our lifetimes. We've seen the coronavirus come crashing into civil unrest, and it must be a challenging time as a leader. So I was hoping we could start off talking a little bit about how are you leading during such uncertain times, and what's the message that you've been sharing with your teams?
Well, I want to open up with again a thank you to all my employees, my partners, and our clients and our trade partners. Without all of them throughout this time, we wouldn't be having this. I wouldn't be sitting here having this interview with you. Currently, from the onset, we've been having. We've had challenges of letting some of our people go, with getting prepared for what was to happen in the climate with the industry. We've been having meetings internally, weekly, since the onset. We let our employees have a voice in what is going on, so we understand how to manage through this at this time. And the first and foremost thing that we were concerned with was the safety to our employees and to the people that we were working with.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure safety is on the top of everyone's minds. And just a question about your guys' work right now. I know you guys stayed open during the crisis working on essential projects. including work at LaGuardia and JFK. And now you're getting the green light to go back to some non-essential projects. Can you give us a quick update on the portfolio? How are things looking right now?
Things are looking good. Yes, we were fortunate that we didn't get affected with some of the work that we do in our aviation sector, especially at LaGuardia and JFK. In LaGuardia, the LGP program, again, there's a lot of programs in the tri-state area driven by the Port Authority and their redevelopment programs. So a lot of those programs continued on throughout the crisis. Those programs consisted for us as far as concession work that was at LGP, SSP America. We continue to build their restaurants, Villa Restaurant Group, Hudson News. We were in the terminal next to LGP for Delta doing enabling programs. And then in JFK, we were doing work for American Airlines, and in Terminal 4 for one of the premier lounge financial institutions, and they're building a premier lounge there as well as some programs that we've had around the country in our other office where we have other offices.
Have you what's the status sort of on the hospitality and healthcare side? I know on the healthcare side, Holt worked on a few temporary facilities during the coronavirus crisis. Is that still happening, or is it moving to new regions?
Yes, our existing work, again, we're very proud of the work we do for Atlantic Health Systems in North Jersey. We continue to do the work that we had slated with them. Throughout the crisis, we converted over 50 to 100 rooms with negative air pressure for the COVID-19 people who were affected by it. With that, we also, the Army Corps of Engineers, we did a 100-bed pop-up hospital for Newbridge Medical Center in Paramus. And then as far as the concessions, again, there's certain work that continues to go forward in the hospitality world, but it doesn't look good for the future at this current time for some of them with what's going on economically.
So would you put hospitality sort of at the back of the recovery in terms of when you expect to see construction projects pick back up?
Yes, I would say if there's not programs for the concessionaires that fall into a city or a major airline hub or an authority that has a program that needed to go forth for redevelopment, I think it'll be very challenging for those concessionaires to continue forward with some of the programs they had until we see the airlines and the employments rise. It will be challenging for them. I'm not saying there won't be no work. There might be some small work as far as consolidating locations, and the same thing for the airlines. You might see a lot of consolidation of different airlines moving where they might have had multiple gates. They might retract them and make them to more centralized locations.
Okay. And kind of keeping on this thread with aviation, you mentioned the work that you guys did at LaGuardia and JFK. I believe at LaGuardia, some of that work was fast-tracked by Governor Cuomo. Can you just walk us through a little bit about what you guys were working on? I know you mentioned LaGuardia was food and beverage, JFK was a tenant lounge, or sorry, an Amex lounge. Can you give us sort of an update on how you guys worked through those projects and maybe some of the coronavirus related obstacles you faced while working on those projects and how you overcame those?
Yes, so for the programs that we continue to work on, first thing, like I said earlier, was the safety and health of the employees and the other trades that were working there. In order to do that, we actually worked collaboratively with a lot of with our own employees, with our trades, with the authorities, and even some of our competitors. We all collaborated together to figure out the best way to keep the programs going. Again, keeping those people safe and healthy, as well as keeping them employed throughout the times. And what we had to do is, again, whether it was from getting the proper PPE to have them continue working, to doing all the testing that needed to be done. But again, there was a big collaborative effort with multiple contractors, authorities, and trades in order to do that. Some of those projects are now coming to a finish, and the LGP head house will be opening shortly. So again, it was successful, and again, it was great partnership with the Port Authority, LGP, Skanska Walsh, VRH, multiple trades. Again, that's what really was able to collaborate and come together to do those works. Whether we needed to concentrate certain subcontractors to work on specific projects to get one done at a time, that's what we did to go forward with that. As far as what we did in other areas, again, it was following the authority or the manager of the airport's direction to assist them to get the programs open.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit more about the new safety requirements on site, and are there any changes that you see coming forward in the next few weeks or months?
It's constantly changing. Just, I think last week they changed it to 250 feet distance within a certain size space of a program to keep an employee social distance from each other. There is still currently, temperature checks, proper PPE worn daily, a daily clean downs of the sites per contractor. So it'll continue. It'll continue to be challenging. But again, the first and foremost thing is to keep the employees safe. So we will do that. We have a COVID-19 plan that we've issued. Again, that was working with multiple different contractors, our legal department, our HR department, to conform that, and as well as what we were provided from the state and local authorities.
Got it. And start talking about the changes that we might see at airports. We've heard a lot of talk about how things might be reshaped in the post-pandemic landscape. What changes do you expect to see coming in airports, or have you already seen in the work that you're doing at LaGuardia and JFK?
I think certain programs, again, if they've already been funded, will continue to go through and will be good for the trades and the workers, that they will be able to continue working. But I do think it's going to be anywhere from 6 months to a year before we see some other changes, with not knowing what is to come. If there's going to be another outbreak of COVID-19, there's still a lot of uncertainty. So with that, just the airlines alone, I think will face some further challenges with their employee, keeping people employed, with the lack of employments and people flying. It'll be a little hard for work to continue going forward without having that generating revenue to do so. So again, we are fortunate that we have a couple of programs that will go forward, and other contractors also, but a lot of the other work will be deferred for a while now, at least 6 months to a year, I would believe.
6 months to a year on the deferrals for the work.
Again, that's my personal opinion. It could be longer. It all depends on the client and their financial situation.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about what you see for the airlines in the next year or so? Do you see, you mentioned consolidation and perhaps staffing cuts?
I would imagine we're aware. Again, it's public knowledge. We've already heard that American Airlines is going to cut their workforce by 30%. I believe once their stimulus money runs out, you'll see other airlines reduce their employees. It's just, again, the economics. If they don't have people to fly and they don't need as many people to do the work that they need done, we will definitely, again, I think we'll see some work as far as the consolidation of certain airlines or how they're going to move around certain gates, etc. We'll see a lot of that. We'll see some of that that'll happen rather quickly to keep those to keep them going, to keep those airlines going.
Got it. And just generally speaking, like as we move towards reopening the economy, how do you see the next few months playing out? I think we're sort of at an interesting time right now. And New York City is on the brink of reopening as well. How do you see the summer trending, and how do you see that changing into the fall and through the end of the year?
I think, especially for us, I think we'll see. We'll go through some further hard times. I believe, will get worse before it gets better. With our work that we have on hand, it will come to. The work will get completed, and that backlog that we did have, it'll be. If the client does want to go through with it, we will be there for them. We have, we know we're privately client driven, so we're here. That's what makes us great partners to them. We're willing to work with them. We know their financial complications that they're going to face. So we are willing to work with them. We'll speak to our trade partners to be able to work with them as well, just to continue to work to keep people employed. But I do believe it's going to get slower. It might be challenging for even us as an organization to keep certain people, to retain certain people. People have different passions, whether it's about making money or working on large projects. If we don't have them, we might not be able to offer that to certain employees. But it's not that we don't want our employees to stay with us. But we will be faced with that challenge, and other organizations will be faced with that challenge as well. Whereas some markets will continue to thrive and flourish throughout this. One of the markets, the big markets that we're in, is aviation and concessions, and we will see a decline in that. But we are prepared for it. And again, we continue to partner with a lot of with the premier concessionaires and the premier airlines, and we're there for them, and we'll continue to be. So, but I do see a decline again further in the next couple of months to come before we see something different change.
Got it. And you mentioned, the different markets. How would you sort of rank which markets you expect to come back stronger, which ones may take a little bit longer to recover? Can you provide some color there?
I think the public or the municipalities, you might see a lot more of that happen, and we are not in that. We're my organization, we've stayed away from that. But I believe the programs that are funded by the government, those programs will probably go forward faster than private businesses because the government needs to show that they are putting people back to work and people have jobs to go to. So I believe if there is money that has been slated for specific programs, those programs will go forward and they will happen, whether it's roadway work or, again, infrastructure work around the country. I do see that. So people, contractors or construction managers that are in that field, they might not see the hurt that others might face in the months to come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I think LaGuardia is a good example for that, right? There's been a lot of resources put towards that, and you mentioned that there's an opening happening in mid-June for a portion of it.
There is the head house is opening, and then there's the next component of Concourse A to continue working. We'll see again the partnership of the Port Authority and LGP and the other airlines, whether it's Delta Airlines at LaGuardia, if it's American Airlines and JFK and the Terminal A program. again, yes, Governor Cuomo has put out a major redevelopment program. Again, the head of the Port Authority, I believe he's interviewed a couple of times, is Rick Cotton. He's been very influential in keeping these programs going. And again, the one program that we do have is the Terminal 8 project for American Airlines. It is a smaller program compared to the others, but it is a pivotal program to get done in order for the other terminals to go forward for the expansion. Going back to LaGuardia, again, there's LGP has been great. They're working with their tenants and the leases they have. I've mentioned a couple of them earlier, which was SSP America and Villa Restaurant Group and Hudson News, and those are the clients that I do a lot of work for. Other contractors are doing some work for other clients there, and again, they've all been working together to keep the program going and to show that there is still economic stimulus happening.
Got it. And kind of given the challenges, how do you see project timelines being impacted? Is there a way to quantify how much longer projects will take to get done now, or any thoughts there?
That is something that I think all us contractors are going to face now. I think the clients are going to think, or again, my opinion is, they might think they can get a better bang for their buck because people need work and want to continue working. They might feel because of not having the issues with pedestrians or in all the locations, it might be easier for them to go forward quicker with work. I just think the parameters of COVID-19 and the safety and health parameters are going to continue to hinder certain work programs to go forward to be expedited. I also think they will add some costs, rather than take away costs, where you might save something from a trade partner in the want to do work. It might be offset by what additional safety requirements are going to be needed to work in the specific facility they might have to work in. So as well as suppliers. Again, I think there's going to be challenges with that. It's just how we as contractors are going to manage that. I believe what needs to be done is the way we operate, which is complete transparency with our clientele. That's why we're privately client driven. We are transparent. We do open our books. We do share our concerns, and we work with great partners that understand that, and we're able to navigate through that. But there will be additional challenges with schedules and timelines as well as costs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned the requirement for workers to stay, was it 250 feet away? Is that going to create some challenges?
No, it's not. It's not 250 feet away. It's just the social distancing requirement is still 6 feet away from each other. But inside a space, you can't have that many personnel inside inside a 250 square foot space.
Okay, got it.
You can't just keep everyone 6 foot away and be able to do multiple work. So there might be different type of shift work that'll have to happen for different trades. Maybe bringing electricians in on certain days, plumbers on the other day, or stagger their activities. But again, that's going to be a lot of that's going to be work for the project managers and the management teams to work together to get that done.
Sure, it's causes some logistical challenges right there. I can see. It also seems like guidance that other industries are also picking up as well.
Yeah, we're on the cusp of again, we do a lot of commercial interiors in Manhattan. There's Monday is supposed to be the opening of phase 1, and we're anxious to see and go back to work. We're working with all of our landlords right now on how to navigate through that with their COVID-19 plans and how we're going to work together to get our workers back to work and safely.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about this June 8th opening in New York City? Are owners planning on starting up work right on June 8th? What's the situation there?
Well, a couple of our clients, yes, they are telling us that they're ready to have projects to go back to work. So we are making plans to do so currently, working again with our trade partners, because it's not like you're just going to walk into the building and get on the elevators and go up. You're going to have the social distancing and the COVID-19 requirements to follow. And we're as contractors, most of the time we're going through a freight elevator. Again, those freight elevators are large. It's going to be somewhat time consuming, to get our personnel up and our trade partners up to go to work. So we'll navigate that, and we'll prepare our people and our trades to do so. And our clients are aware of it, and we'll work with them to make sure it is a safe environment, not only for the workers, but also for the people who, the tenants that work in those buildings.
Mm-hmm. Do you see it becoming more challenging once workers actually start returning to the offices? Right now they're empty, right?
There is some, we've had some work going on in the city. They were considered essential. Our mission critical. We have a small division of mission critical. We do a lot of work for Goldman Sachs and Centurion, and we were able to continue those projects in the city where it was necessary, which was a lot of the IT work that had to continue to happen. But our larger clients, they have not opened up. They're all ready to go as of next week. Majority of them. Got it.
There's a sense of optimism there.
I'm sorry.
There's a sense of optimism there.
There is. Again, I as a a lot of these landlords who have tenants, they're only going to be allowed to bring maybe 50% of their workforce back. And some of the programs that we may have been doing was expansion of their facilities. And we understand what if they don't have people to fill the seats, what are we going to do? So if we do get faced with the program stopping, we'll have to I believe those clients are good for working with us to close out a project or restart a project. So we're excited to see what programs go forward and what programs do not.
Got it. And just sort of turning to like some of the concerns that you're hearing from clients. So funding and budgets is kind of on the top of the list. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Again, everyone has been financially impacted. Again, not only health issues, but the economics issues is immense right now, and it's going to be challenging for the clients to go forward with certain programs, and also we don't have deep pockets, so we need to be concerned about how do we get paid, how do we pay our clients, our trade partners. And it's going to be challenging in that aspect, but we're willing to work with them as long as we know that we'll continue to see payments, and I think our trade partners will work with us as well. We not only do we as a GC or a contractor, our trade partners also work sometimes directly for some of these landlords, so they're well aware of the relationships. And I think that's the big part of it is again, having those relationships with people and again, being transparent with them.
Got it. Are there any other major concerns that you're hearing about from your clients right now? Any other issues that you're addressing for them?
It's mostly currently, again, how we're going to proceed with the COVID-19 requirements. And then after that is the financial portion of it. Everything that we're talking about today is what's on everyone's mind, and it's going to we'll face it, we'll take it, and we'll face the challenges that are to come. with those clients and work with them the best we can, like how we have always done.
Mhm. Got it. And then just going back to aviation real quick, with the budget restrictions that we've talked about, with the potential for consolidation, if clients have to pick and choose sort of what gets done right now, what do you expect to see to take priority in terms of construction, and what will be put on the back burner now?
Again, it'll be definitely concession programs will be put on the back burner. If there's not enough people flying, there's no need for restaurants or retail to be being constructed. I would say the infrastructure would continue to happen because those programs are in existence, and one day we're going to get through this. We are going to get through this, and hopefully in the near future, we will be able to get back on track, and those programs will then go forward. So I just think the infrastructure programs will continue to go forward, but a lot of the small programs will not.
Okay. And I was just curious a little bit about the airports themselves. We've read about some smaller airports, such as the ones in Worcester, Massachusetts, and Aspen, Colorado, having some flights cut back. I'm just kind of curious, if you look at the airports between the major players, the major international airports, and the smaller players, do you see a bifurcation in the recovery between those types of airports, and how hard will it be for the smaller guys to recover?
Again, a little bit out of my wheelhouse as far as what they can do, what some of these airlines can do financially. It'll really be up to them, and again, I guess with their impacts as far as passengers and being funded by the government in order to continue in those locations. I would definitely see a major reduction until people feel safe again. I think it's just I think the airline industry and the hospitality industry will suffer. It's just getting the public back to being comfortable with doing stuff. Similar to, I actually think it's worse than what happened during 9/11. It's just the fear of the health and the safety of individuals, going into an airport and getting on a plane. I wish that wasn't the case, but my opinion is it's going to be challenging, and we will continue, like the airlines will continue, and the concessionaires will continue to promote their safety plans and how to keep people safe and healthy to enable them to go do that. The same way I think the hospitalities, like hotels, for hotels to open, they're going to have to continue to promote how safe they're going to be and what they're going to offer to those to the civilians to go and travel and come into their facilities.
Got it. Do you see the concessionaires right now addressing any of those issues, like maybe building out to provide more space between travelers or anything like that?
They're definitely, they're consolidating their locations. They're not going to open up 3 restaurants that are in proximity of each other and to get one customer and have to operate it. So they'll utilize the best brand that they have and probably operate out of that specific location. And hopefully the airlines that are inside those specific terminals will generate enough employments for them to be able to be successful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I don't think we've covered the work that you guys did at JFK with the American Express Lounge. That's been continuing through the crisis, correct?
Yes, it's the Centurion Lounge, and we have continued working there. It's their flagship. It'll be their flagship lounge, and that program has continued to go forward. And we've faced our challenges with that as far as, again, the safety aspect and health aspect of it. We've had, some employees did on that job site have come down with COVID-19. We followed the procedures that were needed in order to continue working there. And again, it's another great program that will open up in the next couple of months.
Okay, that's coming up soon.
Yes, but there's, so again, I don't want to sound, we are doing for Express Spa. They're going forward with a program to help the situation with COVID-19. We will be putting up a testing facility inside Terminal JFK IAT Terminal 4. Again, a great partnership there, and that'll be for airport employees and other airport workers that can go there and they can get tested.
Wow. Oh,
and they're looking to do some other facilities in other locations as well.
interesting. That's a great resource to have within the airport.
Well, there's a perfect example of a concessionaire, conforming and repurposing their brand to do something differently. And I believe a lot of the concessionaires will, think out. They've been successful so far, and they will think out of the box, and they might, repurpose themselves or prepare, make their establishments capable to function with COVID-19 situation.
Got it. And you said that right now that's for air employees only?
That is correct. No, that's for any airport employee.
Got it. Do you think that maybe they'll expand it to passengers one day?
That would be up to Doug and the Express Bar management. I'm not aware of that. I believe they have some great articles currently out there, letting you know about what they're doing. And it is a great thing for the airport employees.
Yeah, it shows them being nimble in terms of what services are really needed right now. That's very interesting. And then we talked a little bit about your work on the hospital front. Can you tell us a little bit more on what you're seeing for that sector?
It remains busy. It remains busy. We'll continue to see I would believe there'll be a lot more changes in their infrastructure to be prepared for another wave of COVID-19, whether that's doing mechanical upgrades for their facilities. I would see more a move towards that. They're not going to build brand new hospitals. They're going to convert what they have into facilities that are able to deal with COVID-19.
And do you see, you mentioned the pop-up hospitals that you've done in the past. Do you see any demand for that in new regions outside of the New York City area?
I believe we didn't do the only one. I believe around the country, multiple contractors have done this. We saw it, firsthand on the news. They converted the Jacob Javits Center into a pop-up medical center. And I believe that around the country, there's other contractors capable of doing this, and we'll do it if necessary. But I think, again, the world has learned a little bit about this COVID-19, and right now I think a lot of people are moving forward with making certain changes to their facilities in order to be prepared for another wave.
And just one last question on the hospitality and hotel side. Can you give us a little bit of update on what you guys are seeing on that portion of your portfolio?
Well, a lot of our programs in our hospitality have slowed down. Where we do a lot of work for in the malls and as well as outlets. I think it's growing again because of the general public and them not knowing 100% feeling safe. I think there'll be again a slow process of that coming back. for business. I think it's going to take a major, I think again, another year at least before certain programs start back up in that aspect. Especially, you can order online and you can do a lot of other functionalities without having to go to a specific facility. So we're concerned, but I also believe there'll be modifications to to say that there's not going to be business generated from some of those clients with making them more workable for if COVID-19 was to have another outbreak. Again, I just think it's going to be a very slow process for them to come back.
Got it. And just one last question from me before we jump into questions from the audience. As we move towards restarting the economy and sort of coming to a semblance of the new normal, what are you most eager to return to? What are you most excited about?
Me personally, I'm excited to travel. I actually want to get on a plane and go someplace. So, yes, I am actually. I do want to get on a plane. I do want to travel, and I do want to go to a hospitality location and have be waited on in a restaurant or etc. So I am looking forward to that and being able to do some of that. Again, I believe the locations that anyone who would go to is going to check out the safety parameters, and myself included and my family will make sure we are following procedures and maintaining safety regulations to be comfortable going to some of those, to do some of this stuff. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I think there's a lot of people who will join you in that sentiment. A lot of people back to travel.
Yes.
And a couple of questions from our audience. How have you seen bid activity change? Is it different for different types of work?
What was the opening question?
How have you seen bid activity change?
We actually have seen a lot of bids. We are continuing to we're bidding a lot of work. We don't see them being released, but I believe a lot of the work, there is a lot of bids happening. We are commercial interior clients, as well as some of our airlines.
You might have lost your video, Chris.
Okay. I don't know what it is.
Difficulties.
Okay, there we go.
We can still, yeah, there we go. You're back.
So yeah, there is a lot of bid activity currently. We are seeing a lot of bids. It's not up. We've done an analysis on this. It's not up from last year, but it's about the same as pre-COVID.
Okay, great. Next question. Are you seeing a push for projects constructing healthcare and telehealth facilities to get fast-tracked?
We see healthcare facilities continuing, but they're not being fast-tracked. There's a lot of more looking at it and value engineering and reevaluating what they were going to build, again, because of COVID-19. So there is programs happening, but a lot have been put on hold and are going to be redesigned.
Got it. And our next question is about the Delta Terminal 4 program. And the question is whether the Delta T4 program at JFK is still moving forward.
From what I have heard, I do not believe it is. I believe it's not going forward at this time. But again, that's a question for the airline and IAT Direct. Mine is just hearsay.
Okay. And we have a question about, do you think they will have more ICRA training for construction workers and hospitals now? Absolutely.
It's been a big initiative pre-COVID, and but there is a cost to that, so people have to be aware of that. I was asking that question. there's a cost to getting that training.
Okay, great. And I think that wraps it up for our questions. Again, if you have a question, you can type it in the Q&A box. All right, I think we wrapped up on questions. And we are just double checking. Okay. All right, it looks like we're almost out of time. So I'd like to thank Chris for this insightful conversation. Like you, I look forward to travel and to checking out the LaGuardia terminal on my next trip. I would also like to thank today's sponsor, Burden LLP, and thank you all to our audience for tuning in. And we hope to have you in our next program. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Bye-bye.
No matter how you define your family or classify your business, with over 100 years of experience, Burden works to help preserve and enhance